The sharp crack of a gunshot echoed across the vast Nebraska plains as Gabriel Owens rode hard toward North Platte, his stallion's hooves pounding against the dry earth. The year was 1875, and the West was still wild enough that a man needed to keep his pistol loaded and his wits sharp. Gabriel wasn't running from the law, he was racing against time, chasing down rumors of work at the new cattle operation just outside town. At 30 years old, he'd seen enough of wandering and was ready to plant roots somewhere, even if those roots were shallow. A storm was brewing on the horizon, dark clouds gathering like an omen. Gabriel's horse, Maverick, snorted nervously as thunder rolled across the plains. They were still a good 5 miles from North Platte when Gabriel spotted something unusual in the distance, a broken-down wagon tilted precariously off the trail. Most travelers wouldn't be foolish enough to venture out with such weather approaching. "Easy, boy," Gabriel murmured, slowing Maverick to a cautious walk as they approached. His hand instinctively moved to the Colt revolver on his hip. 7 years of riding had taught him that abandoned wagons often meant ambush, but as he drew closer, there was no movement, no sign of bandits. Just the lonely wagon with one wheel completely shattered, its contents scattered by the wind. Gabriel dismounted carefully, still wary of a trap. "Hello," he called out, moving toward the wagon with measured steps. "Anyone here need assistance?" A faint moan answered him, so quiet he nearly missed it beneath the growing wind. Gabriel moved quickly toward the sound, rounding the back of the wagon. There, partially hidden beneath a torn canvas tarp, lay a woman. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen shut, dried blood caked at the corner of her mouth. Her simple calico dress was torn and dirty, but what struck Gabriel most was the clear swell of her belly beneath the fabric. She was with child and far along. "Madam," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "Can you hear me?" The woman's eyes fluttered open, or at least the one that wasn't swollen shut. It was a striking blue, bright with fear and pain. "Don't hurt me," she whispered, trying to pull away. "Please, I have nothing left." "I'm not here to hurt you," Gabriel said, keeping his distance to avoid frightening her further. "My name is Gabriel Owens. I'm just passing through. What happened to you?" She studied him with that one good eye, measuring him. Finally, she spoke. Sophia Collins." Her voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't had water in too long. "My husband, she broke off, a sob catching in her throat. Gabriel didn't need her to finish. The story was written in the bruises on her face, in her trembling hands. "Your husband did this to you?" he asked, keeping his voice calm despite the anger rising within him. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "He found out." Her hand moved protectively to her belly. "Found out the baby might not be his. He beat me, took everything of value, and left me to die." The first drops of rain began to fall, heavy and cold. Gabriel looked up at the darkening sky, then back at the injured woman. North Platte was still miles away, and the storm would hit full force soon. "Mrs. Collins, Sophia, you need help. You'll catch your death out here in this storm." "My horse can carry us both into town." "I can't," she whispered. "If Thomas finds me in town, then we won't go to town," Gabriel decided, thinking quickly. "I've got a friend with a homestead about 2 miles east of here. He's away driving cattle, but I know where he keeps his spare key." It wasn't strictly honest to call Martin a friend. They'd played cards a few times, and Martin owed him money, but Gabriel figured the man wouldn't mind if he borrowed his cabin, given the circumstances. Thunder cracked overhead as the rain began to fall harder. Sophia winced with each movement as Gabriel helped her to stand. "You're hurt badly," he observed, noting how she cradled her ribs. "We need to get you somewhere safe. You'll heal in my care, I promise you that." Her one good eye searched his face, looking for deceit, for danger. Finding none, she nodded slowly. "I have no choice but to trust you, Mr. Owens." "Gabriel," he corrected gently, helping her toward Maverick. "And you do have a choice. I won't force you, but that storm's coming fast and you and your child need shelter." Getting Sophia onto the horse was a painful ordeal. She bit her lip to keep from crying out as Gabriel lifted her as carefully as possible. Once she was seated, he collected what little of her belongings remained: a small carpet bag with a few items of clothing, a worn Bible, and a tarnished locket. The rain was falling in sheets by the time they reached Martin's homestead, a modest cabin with a small stable attached. Gabriel helped Sophia down from Maverick and settled her on the cabin's narrow porch, while he retrieved the key from beneath a loose floorboard, just where Martin had once mentioned keeping it. The interior of the cabin was simple but clean. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, a kitchen table with 4 chairs stood in the center, and a narrow bed was pushed against the far wall. A ladder led to a small loft area with another sleeping space. "You take the bed down here," Gabriel said, helping Sophia to sit. "I'll get a fire going." She watched him silently as he built a fire, her arms wrapped protectively around her middle. Once the flames were crackling, Gabriel found a clean cloth and filled a basin with water from the pump outside. "May I?" he asked, kneeling before her with the damp cloth. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Gabriel began to gently clean the blood from her face. In the firelight, her injuries looked even worse. Her bottom lip was split. A gash above her right eye would likely leave a scar, and the bruising around her left eye was turning a deep purple. "How far along are you?" Gabriel asked softly, trying to distract her from the pain. 7 months, I think," she replied, wincing as he dabbed at a cut. "I've been on my own for 3 weeks now. Thomas left me near Ogallala. I've been walking, hitching rides when I could. Trying to reach my cousin in North Platte." Gabriel nodded, his jaw tightening at the thought of a man leaving his pregnant wife alone on the plains. Even if the child wasn't his, no real man would do such a thing. "When did you last eat?" he asked, noticing how thin her wrists were. "Yesterday morning. A farmer's wife gave me some bread." Gabriel stood and moved to the small pantry. Martin kept the basics: flour, coffee, beans, salt pork. Within 20 minutes, Gabriel had a pot of beans simmering on the stove and cornbread baking in a skillet over the fire. Sophia ate ravenously when he served her, then looked embarrassed by her hunger. "Eat as much as you want," Gabriel encouraged. "You're feeding too." That night, Gabriel slept in the loft while Sophia took the bed below. He listened to the storm raging outside, thinking about the strange turn his day had taken. He'd set out that morning looking for work, and instead found himself playing protector to a pregnant woman on the run from an abusive husband. In the dark, he heard Sophia crying softly. He wanted to go to her to offer comfort, but knew better than to approach a frightened woman in the night. Instead, he lay awake planning. They would need supplies. They would need to be careful about showing themselves in town in case her husband came looking. And Gabriel would need to find work soon. His meager savings wouldn't last long supporting 2, soon to be 3. Morning came with clearing skies. Gabriel rose early and checked on Sophia, who was finally sleeping peacefully. Her face was a patchwork of bruises in the morning light, but some of the swelling had subsided. He went outside to tend to Maverick and assess their situation. Martin's homestead was modest: 10 acres with a small corral, a vegetable garden gone to weeds, and a chicken coop that currently housed no chickens. It would do for now, but they couldn't stay indefinitely. When he returned to the cabin, Sophia was awake, attempting to comb through her tangled blonde hair with her fingers. "Good morning," Gabriel said. "How are you feeling?" "Sore," she admitted. "But better than yesterday." Gabriel nodded. "I need to ride into North Platte for supplies." "Will you be all right here alone for a few hours?" Fear flashed in her eyes. "What if Thomas comes?" "The cabin's not visible from the main trail," Gabriel assured her. "And I'll be back before midday. Keep the door locked. There's a shotgun above the fireplace if you need it." Sophia nodded, though she didn't look convinced. "My cousin's name is Elizabeth Watson. If you could get word to her that I'm safe, I'll try to find her," Gabriel promised. "Is there anything specific you need from town?" "Just something for the baby," she said softly, her hand resting on her belly. "I had a small bundle of baby things, but Thomas took it all." Gabriel nodded, his heart aching at the thought. "I'll see what I can find." North Platte was bustling when Gabriel arrived. The town had grown considerably since the Union Pacific Railroad had made it a division point. He tethered Maverick outside the general store and went about gathering supplies: flour, sugar, coffee, dried meat, and a few canned goods. He also purchased cloth diapers, a small baby blanket, and a tin of talcum powder. As he was paying, he casually asked the shopkeeper about Elizabeth Watson. Lizzie Watson? The man stroked his beard. Sure, she's married to the blacksmith. They live at the north end of town, little yellow house with a white picket fence, but they left 2 days ago for Denver. Lizzie's mother is ailing. Won't be back for a month at least. Gabriel thanked him and left, mentally revising his plans. Sophia had nowhere to go now, at least not until her cousin returned. His next stop was the sheriff's office. He wasn't sure if Sophia would want to report what her husband had done, but he needed to know if Thomas Collins was known in these parts. Sheriff Dawson was a grizzled man with a perpetual scowl. Collins? Don't know any Collins around here. What's he look like? Gabriel realized he didn't know. I'm not sure. I'm asking for a friend who had some trouble with him. The sheriff's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Your friend should come in and file a report if there's trouble. I'll tell her that, Gabriel said, tipping his hat as he backed toward the door. Much obliged, Sheriff. His final errand was at the cattle operation he'd heard was hiring. The foreman, a stocky man named Reynolds, looked Gabriel up and down. You got experience with cattle? He asked. 5 years driving herds from Texas to Kansas, Gabriel confirmed. I can rope, ride, and brand with the best of them. Reynolds nodded. We need men. Pays $30 a month plus room and board at the bunkhouse. I've got my own place, Gabriel said quickly, but I'll take the 30. Start tomorrow at dawn, Reynolds said. Don't be late. When Gabriel returned to the cabin, he found Sophia sitting on the porch, her face tilted toward the sun. She looked up quickly as he approached, relief washing over her features. I was worried, she admitted as he dismounted. Got held up talking to the foreman at the Rocking R, Gabriel explained, unloading the supplies. I've got work starting tomorrow. Sophia's face fell slightly. Oh, I should try to make other arrangements then. Why? Gabriel asked, confused. You've been kind, but I can't impose on you forever. And now that you have work, Sophia, Gabriel interrupted gently. I took the job so I could support us while you heal and prepare for the baby. Your cousin is away in Denver for at least a month. You're welcome to stay here with me until she returns. Tears welled in her eyes. You barely know me. Why would you do this? Gabriel set down the packages and sat beside her on the porch step. My ma raised me to help those in need. Besides, he added with a small smile, it gets lonely out here. Having company wouldn't be the worst thing. Sophia studied him as if searching for ulterior motives. Finding none, she nodded. Thank you, Gabriel. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Just focus on healing and keeping that baby healthy, he said, standing and offering his hand to help her up. Now, let me show you what I bought in town. The days fell into a rhythm after that. Gabriel would rise before dawn, prepare breakfast for them both, and ride to the Rocking R to work until sunset. Sophia, growing stronger daily, would tend to the cabin and begin preparing the garden for planting. Each evening, they would share a meal and talk. Gabriel learned that Sophia was 22, originally from St. Louis. She'd married Thomas Collins when she was 19, thinking she was in love. The abuse started gradually, a slap here, a shove there, always followed by tearful apologies and promises to change. How did you end up out here? Gabriel asked one evening as they sat by the fire. Sophia sighed, her hand absently stroking her rounded belly. Thomas kept saying we needed a fresh start. Each time things got bad, we'd move. St. Louis to Kansas City, then to Topeka, then west to Denver. She paused. In Denver, I met someone. A kind man who showed me what gentleness looked like. It was brief, just a few stolen moments, but she looked down at her belly. Thomas found out, Gabriel asked quietly. She nodded. He beat me worse than ever before. Said if the baby wasn't his, he wouldn't waste another day providing for me. He took our wagon, our savings, everything of value and left me on the trail. Gabriel's fists clenched involuntarily. If I ever meet this Thomas Collins, please, Sophia said, placing her hand on his arm. I don't want more violence, I just want peace for my child. Gabriel covered her hand with his own. You'll have it, I promise you that. As the weeks passed, Gabriel found himself thinking of Sophia constantly during his long days of work. He wondered how she was feeling, if the baby was moving, what she might be doing to pass the time. He began bringing her small gifts from town, a ribbon for her hair, a jar of peach preserves, a book of poetry. Sophia blossomed under his care. The bruises faded, her split lip healed, and her eyes regained their sparkle. Her belly grew rounder, healthier. Sometimes in the evenings, she would guide Gabriel's hand to feel the baby kick, and something in his heart would shift like puzzle pieces falling into place. They were careful when they went into town together. Gabriel would go first to make sure there were no strangers about, then signal for Sophia to join him. They told people she was his widowed sister, come to stay with him until her child was born. If anyone doubted their story, they kept it to themselves. One evening in late June, nearly a month after Gabriel had found Sophia, they sat on the porch watching fireflies rise from the tall grass. Gabriel, Sophia said softly, I need to tell you something. He turned to her, concern furrowing his brow. What is it? Are you feeling unwell? No, nothing like that. She took a deep breath. My cousin Elizabeth, I don't think she's coming back to North Platte. Gabriel frowned. The shopkeeper said, I know what he said, but the truth is. Sophia looked away, shame coloring her cheeks. I don't have a cousin named Elizabeth. I made her up because I needed somewhere to go, some reason to keep moving forward. Gabriel was silent for a long moment. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve the truth. Because you've been nothing but kind and honest with me, and I've been living a lie. She wiped away a tear. I understand if you want me to leave. Gabriel reached out and gently turned her face toward him. Sophia, I don't care if you have a cousin in North Platte or not. I care about you and that baby. I care that you're safe and healthy and happy. But I've been deceiving you. You've been protecting yourself, he corrected, and I don't blame you for that, not one bit. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. What did I do to deserve someone like you? You survived, Gabriel said simply, and that's more than enough. That night, as Gabriel lay in the loft, he realized with startling clarity that he was falling in love with Sophia. It wasn't just her beauty, though she was beautiful, even more so now that her injuries had healed. It was her resilience, her gentleness, the way she hummed while she worked, the sound of her laughter, which came more frequently now. But he wouldn't speak of his feelings, not yet. She was still legally married, still carrying another man's child, still healing from deep wounds, both physical and emotional. She needed a friend, a protector, not another man making demands on her heart. July brought scorching heat that wilted the garden despite their best efforts to keep it watered. Sophia's time was drawing near, and Gabriel worried constantly. The nearest doctor was in North Platte, and Gabriel wasn't sure they'd make it there in time when her labor started. We should find a midwife, he suggested one evening as they sat shelling peas on the porch. Someone who could stay with us as your time approaches. Sophia nodded. Mrs. Peterson at the general store mentioned her sister is a midwife. I could speak with her next time we're in town. But fate had other plans. The very next day, as Gabriel was mending a fence, he heard Sophia call his name with an urgency that sent him running back to the cabin. He found her leaning against the doorframe, a puddle of water at her feet. The baby, she gasped, her face contorted with pain. It's coming. Gabriel's heart raced with fear. I'll ride for the midwife, no time, Sophia groaned, doubling over as another contraction hit. Please help me to the bed. For the next 14 hours, Gabriel did everything he could to ease Sophia's suffering. He held her hand through contractions, wiped the sweat from her brow, and prayed harder than he ever had in his life. When the moment finally came, he followed Sophia's gasped instructions, catching the tiny, slippery body as it emerged into the world. "A boy," he announced, his voice thick with emotion as the infant let out a healthy wail. "You have a son, Sophia." Tears streamed down her face as Gabriel placed the swaddled infant in her arms. "Look what we did," she whispered, staring in wonder at the tiny, perfect face. "What you did," Gabriel corrected gently, though something warm bloomed in his chest at her words. "No," Sophia said firmly, looking up at him. "What we did, you saved us, Gabriel, both of us." In that moment, with Sophia gazing up at him, her face glowing with exhaustion and joy and the newborn making soft, mewling sounds against her breast, Gabriel knew he was lost. This was his family now, even if no law or church recognized it yet. They named the boy Samuel, after Sophia's father. As summer waned into fall, Gabriel found himself falling more deeply in love with both mother and child. Samuel had Sophia's blue eyes and a shock of dark hair that came from his biological father. Gabriel didn't care. When he rocked the boy to sleep at night, or watched his tiny fingers curl around one of his own, all he felt was love. By October, Sophia had fully recovered from childbirth, and Samuel was thriving. They had settled into a comfortable routine, with Gabriel continuing his work at the rocking R and Sophia caring for Samuel and the home. They never discussed what would happen when winter came, or spring, or the following summer. Each lived in the present, grateful for the peace they had found. Until the day Thomas Collins rode into North Platte, Gabriel heard the news from Reynolds at the ranch. "Stranger in town asking about a blonde woman with a baby," the foreman mentioned casually. "Says she's his wife, ran off with his child. Name's Collins, I think." Gabriel's blood ran cold. He finished his shift as quickly as possible and rode hard for the cabin, mind racing. They would have to leave tonight. He had savings now, enough to get them to California maybe, or up to Montana territory. When he burst through the cabin door, Sophia looked up from where she was nursing Samuel, her face immediately alarmed. "What's happened?" she asked. "Thomas is in North Platte," Gabriel said, already pulling out their traveling bags. "We need to leave, now." Sophia's face drained of color. "How did he find us?" "I don't know, but we can't stay here." Gabriel began stuffing clothes into a bag. "We'll head west, maybe to Cheyenne, then on to California." "Gabriel, wait," Sophia said, adjusting her dress as Samuel finished nursing. She placed the baby in his cradle and stood. "I can't keep running, we can't keep running." Gabriel stopped his frantic packing. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm tired of living in fear. Thomas doesn't own me, he has no claim on Samuel." She took a deep breath. "I want to face him with the law on my side." "Sophia, he nearly killed you, and if we run now, he'll keep hunting us. Samuel deserves better than a life on the run." She stepped closer to Gabriel, taking his hands in hers. "I've been thinking about this for a while now. I want to file for divorce. I want to be free of him, legally and completely." Gabriel searched her face, seeing determination where once there had been only fear. "Are you sure about this?" "I'm sure," she said firmly. "Will you help me?" "With everything I am," Gabriel promised. They rode into North Platte the next morning, heading straight for the sheriff's office. Sophia carried Samuel wrapped snugly against her chest, her chin held high despite the fear Gabriel knew she must be feeling. Sheriff Dawson was skeptical at first, but as Sophia recounted the abuse she had suffered at Thomas's hands, his expression hardened. "We'll find this Collins character," he assured them, "and he'll answer for what he's done." It didn't take long. Thomas Collins was staying at the hotel, and the sheriff brought him in that very afternoon. Gabriel and Sophia waited in the sheriff's office, Sophia clutching Samuel protectively while Gabriel stood guard beside them. When Thomas was led in, handcuffed and scowling, Gabriel finally saw the man who had caused Sophia so much pain. He was taller than Gabriel expected, with a cruel twist to his mouth and cold, calculating eyes that immediately fixed on Sophia. "So this is where my whore of a wife has been hiding," Thomas sneered. "With her bastard and her new man." Gabriel stepped forward, fists clenched, but Sophia's hand on his arm stopped him. "I'm not hiding anymore, Thomas," she said, her voice steadier than Gabriel had expected. And I'm not your wife, not in any way that matters. I'm filing for divorce. Thomas laughed, an ugly sound. No judge will grant it. You're my property, Sophia. You and that brat, that's enough, Sheriff Dawson interrupted. Mr. Collins, you're being charged with assault and abandonment. Judge Harmon will hear the case tomorrow morning. On what evidence? Thomas demanded. My testimony, Sophia said firmly. And the testimonies of others who witnessed your cruelty over the years. I've written to people in Denver and Topeka. They've responded with statements. Thomas's face darkened with rage. You lying bitch, that's enough, the sheriff barked, yanking Thomas back. One more word and I'll add threatening behavior to the charges. As the sheriff led Thomas away to the jail cell at the back of the office, Sophia sagged against Gabriel, her brave facade crumbling. You did wonderfully, Gabriel murmured, holding her and Samuel close. So brave, both of you. The next morning, they appeared before Judge Harmon, a stern man with kind eyes who listened carefully to Sophia's testimony. Thomas, for his part, claimed that Sophia had been unfaithful and abandoned him, not the other way around. And yet, Judge Harmon noted, peering over his spectacles, it was Mrs. Collins who was found beaten and abandoned on the plains, while you, sir, had possession of all marital property and funds. In the end, the judge granted the divorce, citing abandonment and cruelty. He ordered Thomas to pay Sophia a settlement from the sale of their wagon and belongings, and made it clear that Thomas had no legal claim to Samuel. The child was born after your abandonment of Mrs. Collins, the judge stated firmly. And you yourself claim he is not of your blood. You have no paternal rights. Thomas was sentenced to 30 days in the North Platte jail for assault, with a warning that he would face more serious charges if he ever approached Sophia or Samuel again. As they left the courthouse, Sophia walking tall with Samuel in her arms and the divorce papers safely tucked in her pocket, Gabriel felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It's over, Sophia said in wonder. We're truly free. Gabriel nodded, though there was something he needed to say, something that couldn't wait any longer. He guided her to a bench under a cottonwood tree at the edge of town. Sophia, he began, taking her hands in his. These past months have been the most meaningful of my life. Finding you, caring for you, watching Samuel come into the world, it's changed me. I know you've just gained your freedom, and I would understand if you wanted to enjoy that independence for a while, but Gabriel, Sophia interrupted, her eyes shining. Are you trying to ask me to marry you? He smiled sheepishly. Not very well, it seems. Then let me help you, she said, squeezing his hands. Yes, Gabriel Owens, I will marry you. You've been more of a husband to me in these few months than Thomas was in years. You've been a father to Samuel from the moment he was born. We're already a family in every way that matters. Now we just need to make it official. Gabriel's heart soared. He leaned forward and kissed her, soft and sweet, their first kiss despite the months of growing love between them. They were married 2 weeks later in the small church in North Platte. The rocking R hands stood as witnesses, and Mrs. Peterson from the general store held Samuel during the ceremony, cooing over the baby boy who already had a full head of dark curls and his mother's bright blue eyes. As winter settled over the plains, Gabriel, Sophia, and Samuel remained in Martin's cabin. Gabriel had written to his friend, explaining the situation and offering to buy the property. Martin, who had found success in cattle driving and had no plans to return to Nebraska, agreed readily. Christmas came with a fresh blanket of snow. Gabriel had crafted a wooden rocking horse for Samuel, though the boy was still too small to appreciate it. Sophia had knitted Gabriel a warm scarf and baked an apple pie with the last of their stored apples. As they sat before the fire that night, Samuel sleeping peacefully in his cradle, Gabriel pulled Sophia close and kissed the top of her head. Happy? He asked. More than I ever thought possible, she replied, nestling against his chest. Do you ever think about how differently things might have turned out if you hadn't found me that day? Gabriel shook his head. I try not to. Some things are meant to be, I think. I was meant to find you, to love you and Samuel. "And we were meant to heal in your care," Sophia said softly, looking up at him with eyes full of love. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the plains in a pristine white blanket. Inside, the fire crackled warmly, illuminating the small cabin that had become a home, sheltering a family forged not by blood but by love, courage, and the healing power of compassion. Spring brought new life to the plains around North Platte. The garden Sophia had planted flourished. Samuel took his first tottering steps across the cabin floor, and Gabriel's work at the Rocking R secured him a promotion to foreman when Reynolds moved on to Kansas City. And as the wildflowers bloomed across the Nebraska prairie, Sophia shared the news that their family would grow again by winter. Another child, one made from the love she and Gabriel shared, would join their circle. Life wasn't always easy on the frontier. There were droughts and blizzards, scarlet fever scares and cattle rustlers. But through it all, Gabriel and Sophia faced each challenge together, stronger for the trials they had overcome, bound by a love that had begun with a simple act of kindness on a stormy afternoon. "You'll heal in my care," Gabriel had promised that day. And heal they both had, finding in each other the missing pieces of their hearts, creating a family and a future neither had dared to dream possible in the wild but hopeful expanse of the American West.